Hey there everyone, I'm Rasenryu, but my friends call me Rasen. Rampage the movie, a colossal big budget blockbuster or a mediocre monster movie? Let's find out. So this is a movie adaptation to the video game of the same name, and in case you've never heard of Rampage, let me take you through a super brief history. I promise this won't take long. The video game Rampage launched in arcades in 1986. Wow, it's older than me. You play as one of three monsters, George, Ralph, and Lizzie, and destroy every city you come across until you destroy all the evil corporations. When you lose all your health, you shrink back into a human, as that's what you were before the mutation. There have been many remakes of the game, with the most recent one, Rampage Total Destruction, launching April 24th, 2006, and containing 37 more playable characters. And I'm done with the history. Less than 30 seconds. Booyakasha! Now before I go any further, spoilers for everyone. If you take issue with this, run away, now. Right now. Go! Okay, movie talk time. Davis Okoye, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is a primatologist, meaning that he is an expert on primates. So naturally he raises and cares for gorillas like George. One day, up in space, a science experiment goes wrong and rains canisters full of chemical gas down on George and two other animals, a wolf and a crocodile. Already you can see that this movie is not all that concerned with accuracy to the original game. The animals all become bigger overnight and ravage their respective ecosystems. The people responsible for the science experiment gone wrong, Claire and Brett Whiten, played by Marlon Ackerman and Jake Lacey respectively, try to take care of the wolf with a band of mercenaries. But the experimental gas made the wolf harder, better, faster, stronger in every way, so the mercenaries were easily defeated. Kinda makes you wonder why they would send anything less than tanks after it, since they know how strong their experiment could potentially make other animals. Davis is confronted by Dr. Kate Caldwell, played by Naomi Harris, and told that George could be fixed and turned back to normal. This turns out to be only a half-truth, as it is soon revealed by Agent Harvey Russell, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, that Caldwell was fired from Energene, the company that the Whiten siblings head. This means that she doesn't have access to the cure and that she lied to Davis. That's right, the liar revealed. Although I'm not too sure why she had to lie to get what she wanted. But this movie is full of those bad reasons why the characters do anything. Like when Davis and Caldwell decide to work together after telling their life stories to each other. Or earlier when the Whitens sent mercenaries armed with only assault weapons in order to kill the monster wolf. Or when Russell decided to put George onto a plane despite the warnings of Davis and Caldwell, who are more knowledgeable about the situation. And more to come. Anyway, afraid that they would go to jail if Ralph was caught by the government, the Whiten siblings decided to call it and any other monsters affected by the gas to the city of Chicago by way of giant beacon. You know, because reasons. George, Ralph, and Lizzie all make it to the city and start ripping it apart. This is the absolute best part of the movie. I feel like everything else was just uninteresting and almost needless until this point. Except for Davis's connection to George, which I will talk about soon. The monsters all make it to the beacon and start to tear down the building. Caldwell and Davis are in the same building getting a serum to reverse the effects of what's happened to the animals when Claire shows up and tries to stop them. Caldwell feeds Claire to George, along with one of the serum vials, and the building comes crashing down. Davis and Caldwell are alive somehow, and of course so are the monsters. But the serum that was fed to George seems to have worked. Okay, wait, hold on. I can't go any further with this review until I address what I believe to be an elephant in the room. You know, among other elephants. If all the monsters were being drawn toward the beacon, and the beacon was destroyed, then why was there a serum involved? Ralph and Lizzie act exactly like they did before, but George was always responsive to Davis until the beacon went live. So destroying the beacon should have reverted him to normal, not the serum. Unless the serum was to tranquilize the hostile nature only, but it seems so very arbitrary. And let's talk about the Whitens' plan. They turned on the beacon, assumedly in order to dissect the monsters once they were dealt with by the government. So a few things. Why didn't they set up their escape helicopter way in advance? Weren't they trying not to have the government get directly involved? If the monsters were eventually taken down, how are they hoping to recover any pieces of the monsters for dissection? Why didn't Claire just shoot Davis and Caldwell when she found them in the lab looking for the serum? Character motivations, what are they? But I digress. Lizzie rips Ralph apart because they're fighting now, and Davis helps George kill Lizzie. It was a pretty well constructed monster battle, a lot of fun to watch. Afterwards, George is severely injured from the whole ordeal, and therefore dies. Except not really. He was just trying to make his friend Davis feel sad. They have a bond. A hilarious bond. And that's the end. The bond between Davis and George was the best part of the movie for me. Whenever they were interacting with each other, you could always feel how close they were. More than any other characters on screen. Even Davis's closest friend meant very little comparatively. The second best part is the rampage throughout the city. How George and Ralph swung off the buildings and crashed into everything. How they would somehow climb the buildings and destroy them. Given that I was anticipating it so much, I'm pretty satisfied with what I got. I also enjoyed all the callbacks to the game. The monster names, although Lizzie was never named. Claire Wyden wearing a red dress and being eaten by George. The Rampage arcade machine in the Wyden's office. Even the impending airstrike that I realized I didn't mention in the story portion of this video, but totally happened. Too bad they couldn't have a purple radioactive barrel to turn George into Vern. Sequel maybe? Don't do it. The rest of the movie. When you sum up the really good moments with Davis and George along with the last 15 minutes of the movie or so, you get maybe 25 minutes of good movie. But the movie is an hour and 47 minutes, meaning that an hour and 22 of it was uninteresting character interactions, terrible one-liners, bad character motivations, and mediocre storytelling in general. Davis's best human friend is seen in the first, 20 minutes of the movie, then he's never heard from again. He was essentially replaced by Caldwell, a weaker version character-wise in my opinion. This movie was bad, but in an acceptable way. There were times when I groaned to myself as conversations went nowhere and smart people did dumb things, but I really enjoyed the destruction and at least 2 or 3 of the characters. I'm looking at you too, Russell. I think everyone knew that this movie wouldn't be pure gold, and it certainly didn't have to be. Just be aware of what you're going into, and I think you won't be completely disappointed. I really enjoyed making this video. If you enjoyed this review and want to see more like it, mash those like, sub, and bell buttons, and tell me what you think of Rampage, the movie and or the game. Rampage has had many different renditions over the years, but there's one game in particular that's pretty interesting to me, and that is Rampage Puzzle Attack. Developed for the Game Boy Advance by Finnish development house Ninai Games, this was the first console game developed in Finland. The game also uses password save. Remember those days where you could enter a password to recover save data? The part I find most interesting about the game is this: George's hair color in the game. Could this be the inspiration for the hair color in the movie? On that note, I'm Rasenryu, and I'll see y'all next time. Big meets bigger? I don't know what that tagline means. George meets Lizzie? Big star meets big phenomenon? Big city meets monster threat? What is it supposed to mean?